probably heard of Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot. It's one of those plays, right? The one where famously nothing really happens. But that's kind of the point. At its heart is this simple, maddening paradox. Do guys just wait for someone who, well, never shows up? So what's that all about? Is there endless waiting some profound act of hope? Or is it something much, much darker? Let's dive in and see if we can unravel this thing.
I mean, this one line from the character Vladimir just says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly nails the whole atmosphere of the play. We're talking about a world of total stagnation, you know? Just repetition and this deep existential dread. The setting is super bleak, a barren road, a single tree. And the action? Well, there really isn't much. They just wait. And that's the billion-dollar question, right? Why on earth do they keep doing it? You have to wonder, is this endless, seemingly pointless waiting an act of incredible resilience, a real testament to the human spirit? Or is it the ultimate form of self-deception, a delusion that just keeps them trapped in their own suffering? Okay, section 1, the question of Godot. To really figure this out, we have to get to know our two main characters, Vladimir and Ostrogan. And then we need to look at the two dominant ways critics have tried to make sense of their, let's call it a predicament.
So check this out, because this really frames the entire debate. On one side, you have the view that they're waiting. The fact they stick together is this defiant moral affirmation. It's a beautiful statement about humanity in a meaningless universe. But then the other side argues that this so-called hope is actually a toxic illusion, a psychological trap that's preventing them from ever moving on. All right, section 2, hope as a paralyzing trap. Let's explore that second idea first, because it's a really powerful one. The argument that hope for Godot is the source of all their problems, not the solution.
The play does this through a concept called temporal stagnation. Basically, time is broken. It isn't moving forward. For them, yesterday is the same as today, and tomorrow is just going to be a repeat. It creates this loop where real change is impossible. They are just completely and utterly stuck.
And this really shows how that trap works. Their hope for Godot is the very thing that fuels this self-perpetuating cycle. First, they cling to that hope. Then, to pass the time, they get lost in trivial distractions, messing with hats and boots, playing games. Of course, they suffer because salvation never comes, and then they just repeat the cycle. It's the hope that lets them avoid the terrifying responsibility of creating their own meaning. So here's the crucial point. Maybe it's not even real hope. Some scholars argue it's more like a hobby or an old ritual. They perform the act of waiting because it gives some kind of structure to their empty days. It's a way for them to cope with the intolerable truth that they are completely alone. Now let's shift gears. Section 3, the psychology of the wait. Let's move from the external act of waiting to what's going on inside their heads. Because what if Godot isn't even a person? Okay, get ready for this, because it's a fascinating theory. One compelling reading suggests Vladimir and Ostrogan aren't two separate people at all. They're two fractured halves of a single mind. You've got Vladimir, who's the intellect and memory, the part that clings to hope. And then you have Ostrogan, who's all body and instinct, the part that feels pain, despairs, and always forgets. Neither one of them is whole, which is why they can't survive without each other. And that's what Godot is. He's not some man who's going to ride in and save them. Godot is an internalized idea, a projection of the psychological completeness they so desperately lack. They're waiting for an external force to unify their own divided self, a job they feel too paralyzed to do on their own. Okay, so, I know. So far, it sounds pretty bleak, doesn't it? Hope is a trap, Godot is an illusion. But this is where everything pivots. We're about to explore a much more profound and, dare I say, optimistic reading of the play. Think about it. What if Beckett is systematically tearing down our old, comfortable ideas about hope, the kind that relies on an external savior, to make room for something stronger, something tougher, something that can actually work in the modern world? And this right here, this is the core of that new argument. The play dismantles what's called teleological hope. That's the grand passive belief that salvation will come from the outside. In its place, it builds something called secularised hope. And this is a totally different animal. It's a minimalist, self-aware kind of hope that comes not from the outside, but from our own internal resilience and our commitment to each other. And we can actually see this shift symbolized by the only piece of scenery on stage, the tree. In Act 1, it's bare, lifeless, a potential tool for suicide. But in Act 2, it's sprouted a few leaves. It's not a forest, it's not a miracle, but it's a microscopic sign of life. It signals a subtle but profound shift, an awakening. So this brings us to the play's final, and I think most powerful, message about what it truly means to be hopeful in a world that often feels, well, hopeless.
Beckett does not sugarcoat things. This line acknowledges the brutal reality of the human condition. Life is brief, it's often painful, and it's surrounded by darkness. There's just no escaping that fundamental truth. And this is the profound takeaway. The real victory in waiting for Godot isn't Godot finally arriving. The victory is the stubborn, flawed, but unbreakable decision Vladimir and Estragon make day after day to stick together. Their shared endurance, their refusal to abandon one another in the void, that is the only authentic hope the play offers.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question. The play suggests that just waiting for some grand external rescue is a paralyzing self-deception. The only real meaning is found in the simple, active choice to face all the uncertainty with someone else. So, in a world that often feels absurd, a world without a guaranteed Godot, the question isn't if we wait, it's how we choose to wait. And with whom?